Okay. Hello, everybody. I guess I have no viewers again, but that's fine. Let's do this for the posterity. Um, so, yeah, I haven't actually been up to much, but that's why these little graphical experimentations that I'm about to show you happened. I don't have much time. I'm working on other projects, stuff that isn't related to 3D or graphic design at all. But uh, that means that I actually get to just work on stuff that doesn't make much sense otherwise. So let me just start streaming my main desktop. Transition. Yes, please let me know that everything is fine in case, if actually anyone joins at some point, please let me know that you're there. uh, and that's it. All right, so uh, yeah, so what am I talking about, right? Well, so InstaMAT, as you know, or maybe you don't know, but as you should know, is a basically Substance Designer version of Substance Designer, where you can do all sorts of patterns and 3D materials and all that. There's way more to InstaMath than that, but that's it. So, but I decided because I come from a 2D background, and I decided that I want to experiment with it a little more. I don't enjoy working with stuff like Illustrator anymore, not much anyway. And so I thought, like I don't want to go full like touch designer or something like that. And I don't want to go into like generative art all the way. I don't want to start coding, but I love what comes out of generative coding, art, what comes out of like all sorts of like geometry nodes slash Houdini slash like Cinema 4D MoGraph, abstract renders and all that. And so like most of that was just me having fun, like imitating other stuff in InstaMat using, of course, your raster slash pixel processing. And so, what am I talking about? I've been sharing this on Discord, but let me just show you. So I started just around Christmas with this, and I will grant you this is not great or anything, right? Like, it doesn't look good, but it was just this idea that I could create a poster, uh, something like that I would normally use Photoshop for, right? I could create a poster or like an album cover in InstaMat because it's going to give me a bit of like unpredictable results, and I will be able to control a lot of the aspects, and there will be very little manual work. And since I did not have the time to just sit down and like work for 2 hours on a poster, that's what happened, right? And then it gave me the idea that it's like I don't have to limit myself to simple geometrical shapes, right? I can combine a lot of the procedural stuff you get from InstaMat, such as flood fills, right? Like flood fills are like the most powerful tool you can get for stuff like this. And so you can combine flood fills, height extrudes, quantize. You can combine all sorts of blending modes. You can use guided nodes to create all sorts of effects. And that sort of started an avalanche of like doing a very quick daily renders. It started with something very noisy, of course, like this, and then it sort of evolved into making stuff that you would normally use Illustrator for, or Affinity, whatever it's called now, Affinity Designer. So this is like a, I don't know, like a sticker, right? And it's all random and procedural, so you get surprised by what you get a lot of the times, and it's sort of like anarchic in a way. It reminded me of like, you know, people who hackers essentially, like people who just like try what's possible with a given machine or a given tool, given code in our case, a given visual code, and you get all sorts of stuff. Sometimes there are a lot of artifacts, you can't use it at all, you just can't get the visual language that you like, and sometimes you get something quite amazing. And so I'm not going to show you uh, all the stuff because a lot of it was just failed experimentation that I wouldn't like force on anyone. But you can also get a lot of variations with powerful color nodes in in InstaMAT, which I'm going to show you later, of course. Again, like there is no limit really to this. Oh, hello, Mr. Dictionary. Yeah, yeah. Hello, nice fractal. Loved your fractal, man. All right. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was just showing off my stuff, right? So yeah, it's like just inverting the colors will give you a very different look, obviously, or just you can go into some like this was inspired by a Warhammer 40k fan fiction, I think. It's like a movie they made about I don't know, was it Blood Angels? It doesn't really matter, right? But they had these like this exact color scheme, like it was very much gray, black, very shiny white, and very shiny red. And yeah, and I loved it, so I was just like decided to imitate it. But it's still the same algorithm in the background with just a lot of like messing around with different noises and textures. And when it really came together for me was like when I started making these sort of tiles. It's just a brick texture extruded, and I've done a lot of different stuff to it to make it look like this. Which again, I guess I'll show you some of the techniques just in a bit. And I started getting this like anime sort of almost drawn um, um, visual that like look that I didn't expect, and I actually started enjoying it a lot more. And yeah, this gave me a lot of different stuff that I really enjoyed. So I thought I'd share this with you. Like it's not always perfect. Like if you look closely, you will see a lot of artifacting and stuff. But again, that gives it a bit of like if you had a poster that would be printed, and let's say something that would be in a magazine from the even the 90s or like something like that, you wouldn't necessarily have perfect lines, right? Like the printers weren't that great, and all sorts of other factors played the part in it. And so I think the challenge of like making a convincing sort of printed look is to you know use a lot of distortion, a lot of I don't know, like photocopies, textures, and all that stuff to make it look convincing. And that's what I try to do. Plus, I love noise. I just love noises. So that's it. Yeah, this one was surprising. I don't even remember how I made it, but it gave me these lines in the background, which is a result of like a quantized node, and yeah, I liked it, so I saved it. Essentially, what I do, I just like pull the sliders on my algorithms or my graphs, and like if something comes out that looks good, I'll keep it, right? And then maybe experiment a bit with the color. It's not that complex. In fact, this might be the very same node system, which is like different settings on different flood fills and all that. I think this one started as an experiment that was inspired actually by Mr. Dictionary here in chat, who made a Trichet tile. And yeah, I took that idea. It's a very simple idea actually. In its basic form, you just create a tile. It's basically half a circle, and you tile it in a Trichet fashion. I'm going to show you later what that means. And then I distorted it, and I get these like weird. You can see the Trichet tiles in the background, like it's still there. But after that, I just like extruded it a lot and played with different colors and all that, and it just gave me this kind of look. Again, quite unpredictable. I don't know if it's nice, but I thought it was interesting, so I kept it. I'm gonna skip this one, but yeah, you know, there's one like limit case, border case for the extrude node, and that is when you extrude your geometry and like looking at it from the side, right? Like when the angle is when you have an orthographic camera and the angle is 90 degrees in X in this case, you get the view from the side. And I thought this was like a cool little city with like moons shining on it or something like that. It was a happy accident. But again, that goes to show that like how experimental this whole project was. I just clicked stuff and hoped for the best. And sometimes it takes imagination to see stuff in it, but it's what I like about it. So this is a city, okay? Believe me, it's a city. All right, same Trichet tile system, different setting, different color. I thought it was pretty bloody. So blood is fun, I guess, maybe. So I kept it. It felt like toxic, shiny and all that. Different blending modes, different stuff happening behind the scenes. Pretty cool, I think. Again, the Trouchet tile, but you can see that I changed some of the extrusion settings. I changed the camera angle. I changed some of the blending settings, and it just gave me completely different results, right? And again, pretty cool, I would say. And you can see the Trouchet tiles like up here, and then it sort of dissolves. It's actually an artifact from the extrusion because we are using an edge detect node on the extruded image, and sometimes it doesn't detect it. Sometimes it doesn't see the lines, the transitions between like different values, so different grayscale values of the image, and so like it didn't recognize all the Trouchet tiles, but I thought it gave us even a more interesting image. Um, Again, the same thing. Plus, I think this is a monster right here, right, with the little eye staring at us. So I thought, let's keep it. Uh, and this is another project. This time I was going for something that would be more like softer, a bit more organic, I suppose. But I also wanted to try a little bit of a stylized look, if that wasn't stylized. I mean, a little more, bit more of a cel-shaded look, I guess. And yeah, so I played with some offsets, stuff like that. I'm not sure it's pretty, but it's definitely interesting. Um, Another city from the side, you have to turn it, and yeah, so this is I don't know if you know, but this is actually pretty easy to make, especially in Cinema 4D. But you can also make this in Blender. It's basically a recursive subdivision algorithm with instancing. In our case, we have to go different. We have to do it differently. You have to sort of create the tiles beforehand and then just arbitrarily mask them. And yeah, but again, extrude node, edge detect node, and some flood fills mixed together give you this kind of look. And yeah, it's actually very easy to make. I'll show you how to make it today, definitely. And yeah, this is when you don't like stretch it out and you just keep the object as is, you get this kind of look. Again, this is more of the same. And this, I imagine you can very much imagine, like you can picture in your head just how it was made. It's just a random scatter node uh, with basically squares set to different blending modes. I had like 3 or 4 of these tiling nodes together, and then it's a lot of edge detection, a lot of tiling. Sorry, a lot of edge detection, a lot of flat fill. Uh, yeah. And this, I won't even tell you how I made it. It was a complete accident, but I like the look. I was working on something very different actually than this sort of explosion. But then I pressed some wrong buttons, pulled the wrong sliders, and I got an explosion like this. I think this came about by basically blending 2 images that were almost exactly the same color-wise, and I actually accidentally scrolled to divide blending mode, right? And so I get a lot of white because that's the division resulting in one or almost one, and the rest is just like some shapes that were like slightly different, and it gave me this beautiful look. Then I just sort of colored it. I think it came out blue originally. I just made it red. Nothing too difficult, right? And this is me just adding back some of the original shapes. It was meant to be a city, I think, but happy accidents, I suppose. All right, you can actually make like very simple uh, typographic designs in InstaMAT. The beauty of this is the use of guided nodes, with which you can control a lot of the stuff. You can control the scale of these little tiles. The tiles are essentially the letters, right? Like this DKNS and this IMT. Those are just tiles, and you can mask them, you can scale them, you can rotate them based on your maps. So essentially, I could write anything in here, and it's going to change and keep the effect, which is something you just wouldn't easily get in, say, Photoshop, right? Like, yes, you could do this in InDesign, but there would be some like tinkering that's maybe a little complicated. You can definitely do this in Illustrator, but you don't get the randomness, and the masking there is just very simple. It's either like black and white. it would be difficult to do. And here I just I just pull a few sliders, change the mask slightly, and you get something like this. The issue is like you will never get like perfect alignment. You get, and the biggest issue for any design like this is that you have to work in a square format, right? So like yeah, you can make a an album cover easily because that's a square format, but let's say you wanted to work in A4 format, well, that's not exactly possible. Um, this is something I saw online on Instagram. There is this guy, I forgot his name, but he goes under the pseudonym of Code RGB. He makes generative art, and I saw something like this, and I thought, you know what, like this can be done in 5 minutes in InstaMAT. I don't even have to code or anything. You just create a grid, you just create these styles, you mask it with the guided node, yeah, you mask it, and then you use shadows to extrude it. And yeah, that's a lot of the stuff. It's all of the same stuff. You just play with the colors. You just use your letters and all that. Yeah, it's a bit of fun. Um, and that's essentially it. So let's jump into it. I'm going to make something that I think is going to be fairly easy, fairly quick. I'm pretty sure you know this guy, Joey Camacho. He's Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. He works in Cinema 4D, and he's this like he makes these like abstract, almost again graphical designs. And obviously, this pattern right here is very easy to make it in InstaMAT. We are going to, you know, mm, take it in a different direction, but I thought we could start with something like this, and I'm going to show you some of the techniques I used to color it and to, extrude it and to add those various lines and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's the inspiration, and I'm going to begin. Of course, if there are any questions, well, I have one viewer. Thank you. uh, anyway, I'm just gonna start. So yeah, as you can see, I've been busy. I've been working on a lot of them. Some didn't work out, as you can see. Sometimes I say failed, polar extrude, stuff like that. Anyway, so Control N to create a new element graph. Create a new element graph. Hopefully you guys can see. Let me just check. Yes, you can see. All right. So for that pattern, I think we are going to need what? I guess we need what we really need is just one basic tile, and that's going to be based on a circle. So let's just create a circle. Let's make it grayscale. And what I wanted to move sort of to, we are basically creating a true shape tile actually, but it's gonna be a bit different. So let's create the circle. Let's move it to into the corner, then mirror it onto the other side, and then mirror it onto to have it in the four corners. Actually, there might be a simpler way of doing this, but I'm going to do this the way that like seems logical to me and gives me some control right later on. So basically, what we want to shift this to the bottom left corner, or actually maybe bottom right corner. It doesn't really matter. So you could do it manually, but you see you can be pretty precise here. So let's just say 0.05, actually minus 0.05 and 0.5 here, and then we can control the size here. So I'm just gonna make it 1. You can actually go higher than that, right? Like if you need it to be higher, you can go higher. So let's just say 2, for example. Yeah? I don't want to do it now, but it's fine. And yeah, and then just let's start mirroring it. Yeah, you can mirror it here, and you can also mirror it here. I'm gonna make it smaller, obviously. Let's just make it, I don't know, 0.66. Yes, that's always the best. 0.66. Right, that's my number. Alright, so we could either edge detect this to get the outlines. Sometimes you get a lot of artifacts this way. I think we discussed this in Discord recently. It seems to be fine right now. It seems to be actually too fine for me because I want the outlines here. So another way of doing this could be maybe to lower the stroke width here, right? It still doesn't give me the lines. I guess we will have to add them manually. you could also like, I guess, bevel it, and then grayscale to mask it. We could do that maybe. Um, let's do this. Oh, no. Let's do this. What am I doing? Sorry. Maybe we can't because it's because it's perfectly tiling, right? Anyway, let's just add a box then and grayscale it. We invert it as well, and we just make it super wide, and we actually don't have to invert it. Let's just do this, right? Let's make it very thin. I don't know, 0.5. All right, we can blend it. Uh, let's do maximum here. Yeah, so now we have like those lines that we need for our basic tile, essentially. Now, so we probably want to do a tile here. Now, I have a bit of a problem with the tile nodes because they all seem to have like slightly different functionalities, but it's not always clear which one is the one you want to use. So you can use like tile scatter, and it has other stuff, right? So for example, tile node is pretty good because in the pattern section you can use all of these presets like checkerboard, Truchet. There we go with Truchet. So let's just plug, I don't know, let's do this again, and we don't need to mirror it, and we need to do this, right? So we can do that, and oh yeah, we need to mirror it in one way. Oops. Whatever. You can see that if you do this correctly, if you get this one on the left, top left, you start getting the Truchet tile pattern, right? Like with random rotation here, you can do a lot. So that's Truchet. You can rotate it by 45 degrees. You can flip it in various directions. So you can already see like some nice patterns emerging. So that's the tile node, right? But you don't have this functionality in the tile scatter, right? It's meant to be a more sort of random, gives you more control in certain ways. But for example, what you don't get here is the blending mode, because it's not supposed to overlap. But what if I want it to overlap slightly, right? Then I have to like scale it here. I have to say like size of 5 maybe, but it doesn't even override it. Okay? It's so there are some like unpredictable things that you think are going to work, but they don't. In any case, right here you can control the scale, so you can make it overlap a lot more. Plus, you can use the blending modes here. You don't have all of them, but you have enough of them to sort of make you wish that you had this functionality in the tile node. Right. You also have like random rotation here, but you don't get those like you don't get the what am I saying? You don't get the possibility to the option to choose these presets, right? And I wish that there was a way to combine these two nodes. Plus, you have the guided scatter, which, as you can see, you can turn on a lot of the functionalities here, which will allow you to use different grayscale maps to control whatever you want to control. Again, but you don't have a lot of the options that you might want, right? Like here you get the blending modes, you don't get the flips and all that, because it's assumed that you're not going to want to use it for this like geometrical tiling patterns. But it's exactly what I wanted to do, so it's a bit sad in that case. But it's fine. You can get around it, or it's not that limiting. Anyway, so what was I going to do? Yeah, I was going to tile this image, right? And so you can see we already have the basic tiling pattern that we need for our Camacho impression. Let me just find that image again for you. Oopsie. Here, right? Like that's the image. All we need to do is to transform this into a mask, and here is where the flood fill comes in, right? So flood fill we will have to do one more thing before we can just plug the flat fill in. We have to invert it. Why? Well, as you can see, the flat fill node essentially looks at the like the black and white differences in your image and tries to isolate them into islands that it then remaps into a UV space, right? You can think about it in a way that each of these like little islands separated by the black lines will now become their own tiles with their maps. You can in fact remap some textures onto it with other nodes, right? Now, this is a fairly simple shape, so it had no problem detecting it. But just to be safe, I usually use the complex shapes, right? And you can also tweak the masking if you're like really getting like some issues with it. You can see that it starts detecting more or less of these styles depending on the setting. Essentially, I think what's going on inside is like there is like a grayscale threshold um, slider that you would get from like a grayscale to mask. And if you look at what it does, right, like you have this threshold, and it's trying to find the the threshold. Yeah. Anyway, so we have this now. Now there are a couple of nodes that are absolutely essential for this kind of effect, right? So first of all, it's flat fill to color. Sorry, flat fill to flat fill mapper, flat fill to color. You can also use flat fill to mask, obviously, and flat fill to corner. That's also a useful one. You can see what it does. It essentially tries to sort of blur and not blur, like round, make the corners round instead of you know rectangular, or like it basically blurs the image and then uses a grayscale mask. The flat filter color, it really has like three modes. One mode is the color one, which will give you really a random color, right? It says random here. There is no input for that. You just get random colors in like all around the RGB spectrum. I don't find this very useful. I don't really know what you use it for. There is also a node that you can use for other stuff, flat fill to a random direction, which you can then plug into vector warp, for example, and it will sort of displace the image using these like directions, vector directions. The colors represent directions in a just like you would have in a normal map. It's not exactly the same, but similar. So I don't really see the point of this like completely random color without any control whatsoever. Like you know you don't get any additional control. But what's really powerful is the second mode. That's the grayscale mode, obviously. Grayscale mode gives you grayscale values, random grayscale values. This is extremely useful for randomizing your images in many different ways. It's basically a mask, but a grayscale mask instead of just black and white mask. And so what you can do then is basically extrude this, right? So let's have a look at this. So the extrusion node is sometimes a bit difficult to control. First of all, I really recommend to use orthographic for this and play with the X at first, and you will see what it does, right? It sort of creates a gradient that will help you sort of visualize the 3D-ness of the extrusion. Now, I also like to do the tiling here. Oh, I should also note, most of these effects don't tile very well. Once you start using extrusion, the tiling breaks, or it doesn't look convincing in the final image. But anyway, so we did that, and then like any soft or like any subtle change in, let's say, Z will change the image substantially, right? So we get this. You can see there are already some artifacts, right? Like if you zoom in, the anti-aliasing artifacts are there. It's a finite resolution extrude, right? Like it's like displacement based extrude. So you will get artifacts. There you can see the sampling line, or maybe you can't see it on YouTube, but there are sampling lines and artifacts, which is fine. Like you have to deal with it. Uh, so that's the second mode of this like flat fill to color, and the third mode really is the one that we will use later on to color the whole thing, and that's this one sample from image. So let's just say a color palette, another amazing node where you can like really set up your own color schemes. You can just sample colors from someone's image or something you find from a photo or whatever, and just plug it in, and it's going to read that and use that to color the stuff randomly. And then you can just use the seed to play with it. So yeah, that's it's basically how you create your like random coloring. All right, flat fill mapper we will leave for later, but essentially I use that to sort of map a gradient to each tile, and to add that noise, that sort of directionality that you need sometimes to create sort of the image, make it legible, essentially. All right, so we've done this. I'm gonna delete all of those. So we have this little extrusion going on, yeah? But before that, before we actually extrude anything, I also want to mask some of those out, all right? So we can actually take the result of these. Here, you can lower the density. It will basically mask out some of the shapes, right? We take this, blend it, and you can either like, if you want the black parts to not to be visible, you can use like minimum or a multiply. If you want the other one, if you want the white parts not to be visible, then you use subtract, right? And so here we have a mask or like a basis for our extrusion. And again, the beautiful part is that you can change it at any point, and you can play with the seeds. And that's it. Now, one more thing I like to do before I extrude is to put levels in here, because that's going to help me like with some of the controlling the extrusion. You can also control it in the height extrude node. I just like to have it separate. You can obviously go for the height scale, for example, and make it like this, and you can see that we are already like getting the effect we would like from again, like if you look at Camacho's work, that's kind of what we want. So that's that. And now, what I would usually do, right? A couple of things. So again, you can like play with the distance. Actually, like the less far it is, the less of a gradient you're going to get here, which is good. Sometimes you get like the difference depending on the angle. Like the black far side of the extrusion is going to be a lot blacker, and the edge detect is going to have problems with it. There will be artifacts, and I should probably show you that, right? So I think the first thing to do is to auto level this. Remember, we are not using it for the height here. We are using it to get the shape, so we can afford to do this. Now you can see that we get a much more contrasting image, and yeah, we run an edge detect. Now, for this kind of image, the edge detect set to Sobol will not do anything. You have to use the gradient detection direction thing, and you can see we get a whole lot of a whole lot of problems. Essentially, it looks at the transitions between the grayscale values, and you need some contrast there. So you can do a couple of things. You can increase the contrast, right? Which would probably lead to a lot more detection here. You can also do the depth offset, but you can see what it does, right? Like it moves this gradient there, and that's not great. That's not what we want. You can flatten it this way. Again, not what we want. We can play with all these like other offset stuff, but again, that's not the best. You will have to find some balance. You can try without the auto levels. Yeah, that's I guess one thing that's a bit difficult about this, especially if you get rounded shapes. You can also play with the threshold to eliminate some of the artifacts, but we still get these dots. It's not what we want. Another way of going about this is to use curvature, right? So we get height to curvature. I'm very sure you know this from like your usual texturing. This is how you would do, let's say, edge wear, right? So let's just tighten up the radius and let's do this. And we should also preview. We should also preview, for example, concave. Yeah, it's almost the same effect, minus some of the artifacts. So I don't know if it's actually the same effect going like under the hood. But apparently this kind of angle will not do us any good, so we have to change it a little bit. Like I said, it's not, we are not using the software as intended, I would say. Not this is not what the software was meant to do, right? So we have this. You can either use the concave or the convex. There is a node. It's the curvature to mask, which will give you a grayscale mask based on the curvature. You can set it to both, which will give you both the edges and the cavities. You start getting some of the artifacts there. That can't be helped. You would have to like blur it and stuff like that to get rid of it. That's just how it is. You can also play with the sliders here, right? Like you actually want to get as close to a grayscale mask as possible, right? So you might want to do this. We can also go back and play with the radius a little bit. Maybe lower the sharpness, increase the sharpness. I never know. Like this can be quite difficult to control. We still get this. I guess the only way to do this would be like to do a bit of a blur there. Let's say 2%, maybe 1%, 2%, 5% even. 5% seems to be better. But we get a gap here, which again might be something you want, maybe not. In fact, you can just histogram scan it or like a grayscale to mask it to get, whoops, that was too much. To get like thicker lines. Yeah, this is the most sort of sensitive part of the process, right? Maybe you could also extract it from the auto levels. Yeah, it might give you a different result. Yeah, seems to be a bit better actually with the radius set to 0. The sharpness doesn't really have much of an effect. Yeah, there it is. And so here we have our basic shapes, or we should have here, for example, or here. I'm just gonna play with it so that we can actually have something we can use. Maybe make it a bit like higher. I don't know. Maybe blur it here a little bit. At let's say 1, 2 maybe. Yeah, 2% seem. Oh, we are starting to lose some of the shapes. It's a little unfortunate. What can we do? Yeah, rounded shapes are generally like much more difficult to pull off than like your usual straight lines. Okay, let's get rid of the rotations here, and let's just extrude it in one direction like so. Maybe rotate it a little bit at a better angle. Let's try 60, 15 maybe. Okay, 5. No, funny. Yeah, it looks like this pattern might be difficult actually. Did not think about it. Oh, something like this. Alright, I think this is something we can work with maybe. What's going on here? Oh yeah, it's the, no, that's correct. Okay, let's say 15. Let's say 15 as well. 30. I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, sometimes like I don't understand why these happen. Huh. Okay. Maybe this is too strong. Okay, 1.5. Yeah, that's going to work. We can get rid of this, I think, for now. So we have our edge detection here. I would normally tweak it some more, but this is going to do for now. All right. Now, so let's use our flat flow techniques. But before that, I want to show you one more, and that's using the quantize on the result of the height extrude. So essentially, what quantize does, you know this as the what's it called now in Photoshop? I don't remember. Well, it takes the gradients that are in the image and sort of chops them into, or steps them into a number of steps that you specify here. So let's preview that. You can already see that we have it set to 8 colors, and it tries to give us like 8 steps of black and white. So let's just increase it, and you can see that we are starting to get some of the random lines. In this case, I just 40 might be way too much, right? And we do the same process with the edge detection. In fact, I'm expecting better results. Sorry, that's my friend. Yeah, maybe not the blurred one. Okay, maybe that's too much. Let's try 20. Ah, there we go. Yeah. So that's it. Oh, also we should use gradient detection. Yeah, gradient direction for that. Okay. Yep, that's already quite interesting. So we are getting some of the lines that we might want later on. You can now just mix it together or use this one, for example, for the flat fill effect. So let's take this one. Let's use flat fill. We will have to invert it again because we are looking for the blacks to define our lines, and that's it. And let's have a look. Okay, looks fine. And now we can do the flat fill to color. Set this to grayscale maybe. And let's check out what we have. All right. I think it's okay. It's not exactly what I was going for, but whatever. So let's just start coloring this. I'm not going to say that this is perfect or beautiful, but again, like this is experimentation, right? So let's get a color palette. I should like to introduce you to another node. This is a community-made node by Robin Rebier. It's called Color Harmony. Yes, Color Harmony. Essentially, you get a color wheel, and you get a mix of different nodes that are InstaMAT, plus the functionality of setting up different color harmonies. So this is actually pretty nice. You know, you can go to say Adobe Color and do the same, but here you can actually do that in InstaMAT as well. You can also just derive it all from one color. So let's just derive it from some sort of, I don't know. Let's try something yellow. Yeah. And so we get the yellow point. That's our reference for the, in this case, a split complementary mask. And then we can plug it. Well, you can actually use the color palette here, which is the result that you would get here. Well, actually looks nice. Let's use it. And you plug it into color. That's our first result. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's something. Something is better than nothing, I heard. All right. So one thing you'll notice, the color, the flat filter color will not color your blacks, right? Like it doesn't use this to color the spaces between the islands. So you will actually have to treat that in another node. Or one of the other thing you could do is also just use the background here, right? Like let's use the first color for the background, and it's going to use the yellow to create the lines. I guess we can keep it for now. You can also do a lot of stuff later with that. I actually don't like to I don't like plugging it directly into background because you can do a lot of stuff with the edges later on if you use different blends. All right, so that's one thing we wanted to do. Another thing would be to map some gradients onto it. So let's just use the flat fill again. This time the mapper I had already mentioned. And we are going to create a quick noisy gradient linear with some grain noise. We are going to blend it together. Let's try what what do we need? Average is fine. Add subtract will give you a bit of a harsher result. Multiply will give you the overall darker result. You can also use like overlay, I think. That's usually the best one if you want to make noises in a predictable fashion, but soft light also not bad. You get more of the gradient. I guess I'm going to use something sharp. Vivid light, hard light. So maybe add subtract then, yeah. You can also tweak your noise, obviously, right? Like you can blur it slightly so you get a bit of a less frequent actually noise, stuff like that. Anyway, you plug it in, and now you see every tile we had before has this grainy gradient remapped on. Now, what you need to do, you can of course control it here. You can get some randomness in. I don't like it too much. It's a creative decision, right? You can set up some rotations there. Again, I don't like to do this way. For this particular map, you can always manipulate your gradient here, which is a bit, I think, more comfortable for me. So let's just say, what looks good? This looks good. Let's say this. Ah, that doesn't look that good. I don't know. Nothing looks good, right? Nothing ever looks good. Yeah, let's just keep it like this. And I would actually do this at the end of the design phase. So let's just get another blend here. Oh yeah, one more thing. You can also like color the noise. So let's just say we want to get the colors from this result of the flood fill. To do that, you just use the color blending mode here. Up. You plug it in, and now you see we have the basically the whites of the grayscale input are going to get colored by this image, and so we can blend it back in. The blending mode here can be a lot of things. Obviously, I like to use negation or exclusion. Negation, exclusion, difference also works. It gives you a bit of a harsher result. Since we colored this, you're gonna get a lot of like blacks with difference and exclusion. So negation essentially will give you the whites of the difference between the two. I don't know if I'm describing this anyway well at all, right? But you know what I mean, hopefully. If not, it's just about like scrolling through the blending modes and seeing what works, what doesn't. In fact, if you hold Control and hover and use your middle wheel, you can scroll through your blending modes. And oh, that's interesting. It's Phoenix. I have no idea what Phoenix does, but sometimes it gives you very nice results, especially if you play with it in color. Sometimes it's awful. Let's just do difference for now. Now this would be like one of the last steps for me in the design. All right, let's try something else. Let's say we want to create like little insets, right? Like little colorful inset for each of the tiles. Well, you can repeat the process, right? Like we can get flood fill to I don't know, flood fill. Do we even need a flood fill? Do we need this? Yeah, let's do flood fill to color. Oh, come on, color. Flood fill to color. Let's do the grayscale thing. And we can just run it through another edge detect. Right? We get something fairly interesting, I suppose. Can use the gradient thing. And this time we want to use the stroke, right? And you can see that's already the effect. But the trick is to use another edge detect after this to give it even more of an outline, right? So here we can control that with width slider. Let's just use this. And we can also control this with the opacity. We get more lines in the second input, which I think is interesting. It doesn't really matter which value you put here because again it detects the transitions. So it's more about the width in here. And of course, if you keep getting these gradients, like you can either use a different algorithm. Sobel will generally give you like thicker lines, or you can do this again and stroke it again, right? This time with something really small, like yeah, something like this, maybe even smaller. Yeah. Oh, it gets a bit of seems again like the rounded shapes are not our friends. Yeah. Is this good enough? I suppose. It's not the prettiest thing I've ever made, but sure. Now, you can use this as a mask or as a direct input. The trick is to use like creative blending modes, right? Like I like to use a lot of the blending modes, even though I don't always exactly know what I'm doing. Like I understand that that's a weird thing to say. Like it's like saying, I'm a sculptor and I don't know how to use a chisel, but it works out. uh, Hence the slightly anarchic character of this of this experimentation. Anyhow, so let's just have a look at what we can create here. So um, let's take a blend, and one of the nodes that I actually like to use for this is the linear burn or the color burn. And you'll see why. So let's just take this, and okay, so it gives you this result, right? You can also use the linear burn. Where is it? Linear burn. You see, like it's less shiny. It takes away a lot more of the brightness, not just the colors, but also the luminance. And you can see that it gives you a little bit of like a, I don't know, glowy, shiny effect. Basically a blur effect. Yeah. Can use this as well. Oh, yeah. Gives you a much stronger outline. And it's just a question of like blending it in again. Yeah, like I don't know. Let's use for this. Let's use maybe add. Add might be nice. Oh, that's ugly. That's really ugly. Uh, I don't know. Color dodge maybe, and yeah, just use a little bit of it. It gives you a bit of an outline, and you can of course keep adding stuff. Let's say we don't like this result. Let's add a bit of this, and we can actually detect it again, right? Give us even more outline. Yeah, like this maybe. We can this time just use it for little like bright edges that we want to add in. So let's use something like screen maybe. Yeah, we are getting more interesting shapes. Again, that this might be a little tough to see from distance. So what I would actually do here is add a bit of a stroke. You can also like play with different like stroke profiles. The square one seems to work the best a lot of the times. So let's just make it very tiny, but you can see that it's like coming in, starting to come in. Maybe let's not use screen for this, but something that actually does something to the color. So let's use, what do we use? Huh? Maybe color dodge again. Soft light usually darkens the image. That's not great. Color dodge. Why am I not seeing anything? Is there a problem? Yeah, maybe we would have to get some of the colors back in. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's take it from here, and we are going to say color. What am I missing? What happened? Oh yeah, but this is no longer grace. No, but that shouldn't matter. What am I doing wrong? Yeah, sometimes I have no idea what I'm doing in my life. What's going on? All right. You- How bloody strange, eh? Did this. Maybe we need some gradients for this to work. I don't know. Um, I forgot how to make this. Anyway, let's do this. Um, we can always like we could color it, right? Like you can let's say we want to use a gradient map here. Of course, we will not be doing this anymore. We are going to make it a color gradient map. I guess we just want two inputs. Let's leave it like this for now, and then we can blend it in. It's probably not going to be what I want, but that's fine. We can also use it as a mask there. Again, it's gonna give us the blues there. Again, like you can do a lot of stuff that doesn't particularly make sense. It doesn't have to be planned. So let's leave it like this. Let's preview our provisional result, I suppose. It's starting to look like something. I'm not in love with it, but what can you do? All right. What did I not show you? All right. Maybe a little bit of post-processing. So just to recap, right? Like what process we used. We created a basic tile, we scattered it or tiled it. We use a flat fill. We created a random color result, basically your grayscale map that's going to get extruded. We also masked it out a little bit to get full blacks. Uh, this one really doesn't do anything right now. It's just an additional controller for the height extrude. Basically, what it is the it's this height scale, but you also have the middle slider here, right? Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention. If you increase the voxel size, you're gonna get, well, voxelized results. Might be something you want to do, right? Gives you a different look. All right, not going to use that now. And then we created the quantize effect based on the gradient from the extrusion, which gave us some of the lines. Now, this, in this case, we don't get many of them. We essentially got them in just the right amount, in my opinion, right? But sometimes you get them all over the place. And in that case, you probably want to combine it with you you base it on this edge detection, the one that doesn't have the subtle lines from the quantize, and you run it through a flat fill into flat fill to mask, and you mask out some of these little lines. Yeah, like you use a mix between this and this. You don't even have to use the flat fill. You can use some other mask, right? Like it depends on what you want. Flat fill will give you the most predictable results, I would say. All right. So we have done a little bit of coloring, all that. Of course, you can apply to this like all the tricks you would do if you were working in 2D in Photoshop, for example. So let's say I wanted to add some glow, right? Like one way of doing this would be to isolate the brightest parts. So histogram select. Let's just get the brightest parts. Yeah, something like this. Now, what do we do? I would probably do this before the noise, actually, because that's going to give us some artifacts. Here, let's lower the range and really get just the edges that are really the brightest parts of our image. And you can just create a blur sort of cascade, like a typical blur cascade. You get a blur that's going to start with, say, I don't know, 2%. Let's do 3 of those. The more you will use, the more like polished it's going to be. Let's say 5 and I don't know, 15. Let's do 4, and that's 25. That's the default. So we have these like blurry images. Now we basically just blend them together with an, I guess, linear dodge is usually what you would use for this, right? So let's do it 2 more times. Just this guy goes here, this guy goes here, and that's our result. Now, of course, you can sort of control this with the linear dodge, opacity, uh, and we can blend it in. So blend this, and let's say, I don't know, you can add it in. It's good to give you this, or like some other color dodge. It's usually pretty good for this. Linear dodge, color dodge, right? Linear dodge. I think overall this is a bit too bright, so we can like make some adjustments in the color harmony node. Let's say luminosity down. Be careful because that's going to affect your setting on the histogram select. Right now we are not getting much, so let's increase the range. Increase the range. Yeah, that's one like bad thing about doing this. You can also base it on, say, your original edges, right? Like you can use this instead of the histogram select as the input for all the blurs. So that's it. Now we are getting too much of this, so let's just tone it down. Yeah, I'm not creating the most beautiful design, but you get my point, right? Like that's how I would do something like this. Let's just use something else. Ooh, what's that divide, huh? And yeah, I don't know. Color dodge. I don't know. Maximum. Maximum. Well, maximum actually looks pretty good. It just gave us the white out of that, but not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah. All right. This one is really not working. This negation. As I said, negation sometimes, like oftentimes, works the best for this. All right. We can also maybe turn this around. See what result we get. Yeah, it sounds a bit better. Well, you get my point. Okay, now what should we do? I still think that some of the lines are like not thick enough, and we don't get like enough variation in those styles. Now, so let's go back to our original flat fill here, and let's make a mask. So flat fill to mask. And let's base this not on density, but on the size. I don't want the small ones. I only want the large ones, or like the larger ones. Let's do this. Yeah. And I want to create, let's say, what's going to look good. I guess stripes. Stripes always look good, right? So let's get the stripes now. I like to set this to horizontal vertical because that gives me more control. It doesn't, like when you have it on diagonal and the more you add, it changes the angle. It's a bit weird. So horizontal or vertical, we are going to safe transform it. We can have the count here, doesn't matter. Now, safe transform. So safe transform obviously maintains tiling for you, so that's good. And we scale down, giving us more. Let's take these nodes somewhere here. You get blend. Yeah. We want to add this on top, and let's use this as our mask. And you can see what it does. I'm just gonna go with something like color dodge again, or I don't know, soft line. I don't know, maybe just screen. We also need to make it a lot smaller. Maybe even tile it more. Oops. Oh, it looks okay, and of course we don't want so much of it, just a little bit. Yeah, so it's not the best. Maybe you can like base it on another flat fill here, yeah, or whatever. I don't know. Let's try this. Like we do the same process again. We flat fill this. In this case, we want to use the complex shapes probably. Yeah, it gave us this. And we want to use the flat fill to mask here. Oh, it also gives us these shapes, huh? Can we set it to area? Huh, not bad. So Actually, more looks better, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, something like this. It's not the best thing I've ever done, but you know, here we go. Here we are now. Well, and like the final part of the experimentation would usually be something like an HSL node or guided HSL or replace color. Replace color is actually a pretty good one. It's a version of HSL. You essentially target a certain color from the input. You can also set the colors. So if you know that you want something close to one of these outputs, for example, let's say the yellow to be replaced by something something sane. Let's just say, I don't know, some sort of red. It can get a bit funny with the softness sliders and the ranges. Yeah, it's not the easiest, especially if you use it after the noise. So again, let's stop using that and use it here. Yeah, that's a bit better, but we are losing a lot of the stuff there. There are other modes. You can target the chroma only, or the luminance, or the hue. It's up to you. Interesting, interesting. That gives us a different. Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Yeah, well, the point has been demonstrated, I imagine, right? So let's just get some like pinkish red. Fine. And here we have the HSL again. Ooh. And da 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 da. I guess I would maybe distort these lines a little bit with this noise. Oh shit! I hate this. With this noisy look. So what do we do? We can either add softness, right? Might be actually pretty nice. All it does now, because we are using that as a mask, are we? No, 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 we are not. Maybe some directional warp. Why not? Maybe let's use it after so that we maintain the resolution. Oops. Yeah, let's reuse or actually let's use fractal sum noise. To apply that. Yeah, whatever. Intensity input. Let's tone this shit down quite a bit. Something like that might be good. Let's plug this in instead of this. I don't know if that helped. Probably not. You see, in general, I don't know what I'm doing at all. Like that's why I make a live stream, to show you that I don't know anything. I don't know. Just a bit of imperfection. Don't care right now. Yeah. So HSL. Now, obviously, the more post-processing you do, the more likely it is that you're going to break your image, or that you're going to create something supreme, something excellent. So just start playing. Like sometimes, I don't know. Does any of this look good? Maybe it's all just it's just a touch oversaturated. So it's this. Let's switch to the big screen. Yes. The luminosity. Saturation up, saturation down, hue. Of course, if nothing's working, you just go back and change the colors. I mean, we've probably destroyed it way too much now, but let's just... Yeah, that's ugly. Too many colors. Too many colors. Yeah, that's way too many colors. All right, let's just say we only want 3 of those. It's very monochromatic. Let me just find some colors somewhere. Or do we go for the black and white / yellow that Camacho has? Sure, let's do that. Something like off black. Here, let's try something very saturated. It's, fairly white. Switch it into like yellowish. And here we are going to get like a golden color. Something like that. We don't really like the highlights, do we? No. Maybe not add, but screen. Again, this might be a little too strong. You know, just play with stuff. No, I don't mind this. All right, hue. Oh, that's really ugly. All right, guys. I think I've created a monster that cannot be saved. That's that's what happens, right? Like if you have, I don't know, 15 minutes. I kid you not, you can make this in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, right? And just like see what comes out. What would I play with to see whether we can achieve something better? Well, obviously the tiling is one thing, so we can, for example, start stretching it. Yeah, that would be one way of doing that. Well, I don't know about this. Yeah, that's awful. Whatever. Not great. We can play with masking, right? Like we maybe don't want all of this. That's not going to fundamentally change the visuals of your image, right? You can obviously press a lot of these buttons up here, randomize the seed. Well, since it is fairly regular, again, you won't get much of a difference. But where it really changes is when you start messing around with the um, with this, right? Okay, it's really ugly. I would really need to come up with the proper color scheme so that we would see what's going on. But you can see that like because it's all procedural, all based on a sort of a tree, a cascade of edge detects and flood fills, you will keep getting consistent effects with different results, right? And it's only up to you how you're going to mess your image up. And obviously that's what I like. I think this is never going to work with the color, so I'm just going to desaturate it heavily. See if we can get something nice from just the black and whites. Not really. Okay, I'm going to call this design a failure, but that's it. Okay, that's essentially what I wanted to show you. Um, I'm hopefully someone's going to see this at some point and get inspired to create his own, weird tiles, extruded, flood filled, edge detected to oblivion. Um, that would be lovely. I had a lot of fun making this. I have no idea what this would ever be useful for. Like, it's not. It's just for fun, right? But sometimes you get an interesting sort of a banner image out of it, or just like see what all these like different blending modes do in practice, right? Like it's one thing to know that difference gives you the sort of the remainder of the difference between the two inputs. The other thing is to know like what to use it for, right? Like difference has to be one of my most favorite blending modes, but it's so unpredictable in most cases. But in this, when you just use it to blend in some noise or stuff like that, it's going to give you a lot of interesting results. Another thing to do would be to keep playing with the post-processing, right? Like playing with the color. So let's just take a blend, and we are going to, I don't know, HSL this and blend it back with itself. But we are going to use, let's say, divide. In this case, we have to change the. Well, let's start previewing our results. Yeah, it's going to give you again very unpredictable results. You're dividing the original image with the second one in 4 channels, like in luminance or in RGB actually. So in 3 channels, but it's still you just don't know what's going to happen, right? This one might be good. I don't know. No, none of it is beautiful in any way, but uh, another technique, right? You can, if you, for example, get really close to something that you like. Let's say I like everything except the blacks, right? Like, yeah, let's use an replace color, or maybe HSL guided HSL is good. HSL for this case. Let's isolate the blacks. So let's just do this. The range. It's not isolating the blacks. Why not? The other way? Maybe we have to convert it into black and white. So color to grayscale. Histogram select. Then yeah, that's gonna work. So that's roughly the blacks we have. And then let's plug it into, for example, hue, saturation. And here we can mess with the saturation and the hue factor, right? Like it's changing these like lines here, there, and a little bit of the black. I guess we plug it into luminance as well, and we brighten it. Huh? I don't know. Again, it's not giving us the best result, but that's how you would target certain parts of your image. You can obviously create a smarter mask than just color to grayscale histogram select, right? Like you can, let's say we go back and grab some of the edge detects to target these lines again, or some other result from before, right? Like it depends on you. Okay, I guess I can just quickly demonstrate how to make that trichet effect. It's really simple. You just basically start with this, like before. Let me just reset all the transforms here. And what do we need? Yeah, it's not difficult at all. Let's just symmetrize it. Symmetrize it over this, mirror center. Let's edge detect it, for example, and let's style it. Yeah. Then we go to the, where is it? Pattern. And we go for trichet. And yeah, and that's where the artifact comes in, because we also get these lines. You can also clamp it here, which already gives you this, but it's still there. It's not perfect, right? And we can do this. Or did I mess it up? Did I mess it up? Did I mess it up? I must have messed it up somehow. What was the trick again? Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna open it real quickly because I am a bit tired and my brain doesn't work. Nothing works ever? No? Oh yeah, this is the tile that you need, right? You just have to invert it. Then you tile it like this, and you get just a trichet, and that's it. Yeah. Then you use the same thing. In fact, I use this NPass Ringified. It's my own custom node. It's a series of edge detects that get like smaller and smaller, and then I just take the result. I didn't even have to use it here, right? Like I could have used the regular edge detect or something like that. It's fine. Again, we are inverting it so that we get the black lines, and then we just flat fill it. Flat fill to color number 2. In this case, I am blending it together with some random color node again, and then I'm height extruding it. And you're already seeing like the pattern emerge. Then I do some of the like creative masking, quantization, I suppose, which gives us these lines. Unfortunately, it also gives us these diagonal lines, but that's just the algorithm in combination with the height extrusion. And we run an edge detect again. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, like if you look at the edge detects and your fluff fills and all that, because it's all based on black and white masks, you get this like really rough pixelated look. You just need to anti-alias it at the end, or even slightly blur it. Like blurring by 1% will not be noticeable in most cases, but it will give you a much more pleasant result. Anyhow, we are doing one more flood fill, and as you can see, I've done some color experimentation, and here we are already coloring. What else did I do here? I don't remember. Oh yeah, AO. AO will give you, ambient occlusion will give you a lot of depth, of course. Like it will give you more 3D look. So we could, technically speaking, we could do that. Let me just save this real quick. Yeah, like stream tiling. So let's get our something. Let's get our height output. Let's use this one. So height ambient occlusion. Yeah. So we are getting these shadows, right? That's kind of what we want. You don't even have to go for like super high quality, or even you don't have to ray trace it, right? Like that's just an overkill for this kind of thing. So like just let's go for default quality to medium or high, doesn't matter. I would actually increase the strength because that's what we are going for. We want to exaggerate the effect. You know, depending on what you're going for, you can add more or less of the radius. Even like, you know, this would actually be pretty good. It gives us a lot of like directionality, I suppose, or like 3D-ness. I'm not really good with my words today. Maybe darken it even more with the scan. Yeah, that's actually not bad. And let's blend it in. I suppose we would blend it before the glow. Let's do this. Let's just use it as is and use something like what? Something like what would be good? Multiply. Multiply will darken the image a lot. Overall. Ooh, that's interesting. What is that? Oh, difference. Very interesting. Exclusion will brighten. This is Phoenix. I never know what to do with Phoenix. Ooh, what is that? Maximum. It just takes away that. I mean, yeah, get rid of the colors. Get rid of the stupid colors, and you get a nice design, right? All right, I'm just gonna leave it at that. But you get my point, right? Like if you take a little bit more time and figure out how you want to use these nodes, maybe even like add in some noise into the ambient occlusion, so you get like a more I don't know, distinct feel of the ambient occlusion map. Um, yeah, that's what you can do. I don't know. Huh. The vision actually brightens it. That makes sense. Ooh, what was that? It was subtract, right? Like I just got the, I mean, art, right? Art. Let's call this art. Let's give me my HSL somewhere. Here. Oh yeah, I'm an artist. You know? Can you see just how good of an artist I am? Anyway, that's it. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted. One last thing before I go. I'm just gonna finish going through the Truchet tile effect. Essentially, again, what we did, we just created a basic Truchet tile, then we Truchet tiled it, then we extruded it, and then we created a flood fill, colored it, and we kept adding different noises. I actually liked the artifacting I was getting from the height to curvature this time, and so I used it. I used it to color something, I feel. I don't. Oh yeah. I'm actually not blending it in at all, but here, yeah, it gives me these like weird stains or something. It would need to be blurred a bit more, I think, but that's it. Oh yeah, I should also mention once your graph gets sort of set up and you start getting results that you like, it's a really good idea to parameterize it a little bit, right? Like you expose your post-processing HSL, you expose your, I don't know, your extrusion uh, orientation, you extrude your tiling counts, your quantize counts, so that you can essentially uh, be faster at the iteration, right? The more you iterate, the more interesting stuff will fall out of the algorithm. So yeah, that's that. Now, hopefully this will be interesting to someone. Um, I had a lot of fun making these, and if I come up with other crazy ideas on how to use stuff like this or something else, in InstaMAT, I'll be sure to let you know. So have a good one. Please leave some comments or something. Actually, I'm not some YouTube schmo. If you like, you can ask me questions or tell me to go, F myself. Uh, all of these are acceptable, and most of them will be rejected in YouTube comments section. That's it. All right, that's it. Have a good one. I'll see you when I have something more to say. So, bye bye.